Hi y'all, it is the Southern Belle from Hell here, and thank you so much for hopping into my channel if you are new, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I have a treat for you guys today. I decided to build Mike Wheeler's house from the show Stranger Things. And Stranger Things, unfortunately, is about to come to an end. I've been watching since it first came out. I've been obsessed with the show, and I had to build Mike Wheeler's house to commemorate the end of this show. But before we get too much into this, thank you so much to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video today. Guys, if you do not know about Instant Gaming has thousands of deals on your favorite games, not just The Sims, but if you want to rack up on some deals for The Sims, they've got packs up to 75% off. So if you use my affiliate link below, you get to support me as a creator and also stock up on some deals. So again, thank you so much to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to this build. So I absolutely love Mike Wheeler's house. I feel like it is the perfect blend of nostalgia, especially if you are a kid of the 80s and the 90s. Like, it just feels like home. And I don't think a lot of kids these days actually realize that this house, like if you had a house like this, you were doing great. Like, this house is technically, including the basement, 3 stories. It's in a nice suburban neighborhood. You were doing grand in life if you had a house like this. But the house is also very lived in. That's what I love about the show, is that like nothing is very cookie cutter. Everything looks just lived in. Like, there's a lot of personality to all of the locations in the show. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to match the outside of this build as closely as I can to the picture that is up on your screen. I took a whole bunch of screenshots of just different scenes, and I tried to match the house as closely as possible while also doing, everything that can be playable in The Sims. I thought about making this a CC build, and I do have some CC. This is a limited CC build. I only download 3 files, and those files they're just for decoration purposes because I thought they were really neat and fun and kind of fit in with the time period. But I really challenged myself when I was looking at everything, like trying to prepare for this build, and I said, well, you know what? We have a ton of things in game that can go with this house. You don't technically need CC to get the feel of the time period of this house. So instead of doing a all CC build, I just add a little bit of decor pieces, and I don't really focus too much on using CC. So if you are someone that doesn't feel comfortable downloading CC, or at least a lot of it, then this house is great for you. But there are 3 files that I've linked in the description box below. Right now, what I'm doing, you don't really see the backyard of the Wheeler house a lot. So I found this image online, and I knew that their driveway kind of wrapped around their house a little bit. And there is one scene that's in season 1. I could not find it, but I just watched season 1 again. And you see that there is a door in their basement that leads outside. So obviously their backyard is sunk a little bit for them to go outside. So I decided to make their driveway kind of link around the house and go to where it connects to the basement, if that makes sense. And I have no idea if that is what the true details of this house is. I just found a house that looked similar to it and kind of went with it. But I liked this idea. I thought this was different than the other builds that I've done, and also add something a little bit different than what I've seen other builders do that have done the Wheeler house. So I make this driveway that goes behind the house, and it hooks up to the basement itself. And I loved the idea. I think it came out very realistic and just, kind of perfect. However, I don't really see the parents actually going into the basement that often. I kind of see them as like, if it's bad weather, yeah, we'll, enter the house through the basement, but I see them actually getting out of their cars and walking up and going through the front door. And you mostly see, like, when people go in and out of the Wheeler house, they enter through the front door anyways. There was only that one scene I saw somebody use the back door. I think it was Lucas. But I just thought that was an interesting little detail. And right now I'm just trying to get like all of the outside details down. Try to think of like how the layout of this house is, because you do see a lot of rooms in the show, but you don't see all of them. And obviously there's got to be a room for baby Holly. I'm kind of doing this layout like it's the first season. So she's still a baby in this season. So there's got to be a room for her, parents' room, Nancy's room, Mike's room. And I also add, just because I had more room, this actually turned out to be a pretty big house. I added like a little guest bedroom that just had like a bunch of junk and clutter in it, because you never see like family members visit them, but I'm sure like they have some room in the house where they entertain guests. I mean, a house this big, I'm sure they do. So I don't really show that room. It's just kind of like extra stuff, extra clutter stuff. So if you download this off the gallery and you're like, wait, I didn't even see this room, that's why. It's just an extra room basically. So right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to make this landscape look a little bit more realistic, and I decided to add a basketball goal in the back. And you don't really see the boys doing like a lot of sports, but in different scenes you'll see that they have stuff to go outside and like throw the ball or play basketball. Like you see it. In this last season, we saw Lucas playing basketball and he was really good at it. So obviously they weren't just always nerding it up with Dungeons and Dragons all the time. They, did typical boy stuff and went outside and play. So I'm just trying to make this area look as realistic as possible, and I'm speeding this process up because it doesn't even matter anyways. I decided to kind of clutter up this area with some overgrown brush, and you know what? It deleted itself because that driveway that is sunken, it's part of a roof build, and it will not allow these plants to stay next to it. Like it will during the game, but as soon as I exit out of the game and open it up, none of these plants are there. So if you see some images later where those plants are no longer there, that is why. But it's okay. It's okay. I really just added it for aesthetic reasons. But most of the landscape stays. It's just the ones like around that roofing piece that did not want to stay. So I decided to add a little bit of light into the basement. So I added some windows, and I decided to add this trellis ladder that goes up into Nancy's room, because in season 1 you have her boyfriend that sneaks up into her room, and I don't know why, I always thought that was so romantic. Bad, yes, parents would totally kill you, but I just thought that was so romantic that Steve would just hop up in there just whenever he felt like it and just be like, hey, let's study, wink wink. But I wanted to add that little detail. There's not a trellis that leads up to her room, but I thought that would be fun for gameplay. And I wouldn't say it's functional, but for decoration purposes, it is definitely fun. Now I'm going into the layout of their house. Now I had to get creative with this because this is such a big house and you do not see all of the rooms. So I just kind of make out this it's not bottom floor, but like the main floor that you enter, where we see the foyer and it opens up into the kitchen, and then off the kitchen we have the dining room, and then on the opposite side there's the living room. Now there's a ton of other space that you have to figure out, so I put baby Holly's room downstairs, and I decided to add another little eating area. There's the formal dining area, and then I added another one because there's a couple of scenes where they're eating breakfast and it's in a completely different area of the house. And so yeah, I added another laundry room. I added 2 downstairs bathrooms. This is a big house. I did not think it was going to be that big. And then when I started like decorating and trying to figure out the blueprint, I was like, oh my gosh, there are all these rooms and I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. So I just used some creative liberties, and when it came to doing the upstairs, you have the parents' room, Mike's room, Nancy's room, 2 bathrooms upstairs, and a guest bedroom. And the basement, I remember one scene where Elle has to change clothes, and she's in a bathroom at the very bottom of the house in the basement. So I added a bathroom down there. Now what I'm doing here is I am putting these wooden, they have a fancy word for it, but basically it is these posts, and they're very like ornate in a few of the scenes where they're eating in the formal dining area. And I end up deleting these and going for something a little less ornate, just kind of like your typical posts, just because I hated the way these were poking out through the half wall. So you see me go through and delete it. All of these wallpaper swatches, most of them I change. First off, we have so many different wallpaper swatches in the game that you can put with a build like this. It is very like retro 80s and 90s up in our build by category. And I just tried to match whatever I was looking at, whatever reference pictures, and some of it looks spot on. Some of it you could tell I just had to like compromise with, but it was fun. It was challenging, and I had a lot of frustration, okay? I got very, very annoyed with some of these decoration pieces, and I could have just downloaded CC and made it look like 100% perfect, but it was cool to just kind of like go out of my comfort zone with what is in the game and just add little CC pieces that are just fun later. Now, I absolutely detested doing Will's room because you don't hardly see his room. Like, you get certain glances of it in the first season, and that's it. You don't really get to see his whole room. So there is one picture that I found online, and I just tried to work with it as close as possible. It was very difficult to find pictures of his room and not just like little pieces from the show where you see him and you see Elle, but you don't actually see like his whole room. You see a ton of Nancy's room, you see a ton of the basement and the kitchen and stuff. Not so much Will's, but truthfully, there's not many scenes where he's just hanging out in his room. So I'm trying to match as close as possible to all these pictures I have saved. I'm kind of going back and forth, and I still change up quite a bit, especially when I start focusing on one room at a time. And now a picture has popped up when you first enter the Wheeler house. And as soon as you enter, you see the stairs that go upstairs, and you have like a little side table, and you enter into the kitchen. Now, the floor was difficult. Okay, so as you could see in the picture, there's this stone, and I felt like this stone swatch matched it pretty closely. And then you see like a couple of different wall coverings. You see the wood panels, and then you see kind of like this teal color that's going up into the stairway. And then you have like this beigeish yellow that is in the kitchen. And I'll find a better picture in the kitchen, but yeah, there's a lot going on up in their house, and I didn't realize it till I was building. And right now I'm just like cluttering up the area, making it look lived in like in the show. And I put a little bit of CC decor. I put down Dustin's ball cap, and I just thought that was perfect. I found this CC pack that was a Stranger Things decoration pack, and I thought it was so perfect. So I just add little touches from that CC pack all through the house just to kind of make it feel more like it's from the show. Now getting into the kitchen, I could not find counters that were like matching exactly to the picture, and I decided to just use these that we got from Cottage Living. And I decided to kind of change up the cabinets just a little bit. And so it's one of the cabinets we got from Base Game, but I really didn't like the way the windows were looking in the kitchen, so I changed it up a little bit just so that it matches the picture a little bit more. And if you notice, the window is kind of sunken into the wall, whereas the cabinets are jutted out just a little bit. So I try to create that effect with this wall decoration that's just this white panel. And yeah, I think it kind of had that effect a little bit. Like it made it look like the picture just slightly a little bit more. Now the layout of the kitchen is slightly different. It's just the way The Sims works. Like I couldn't have it all together like in the picture and everything be functional. So I kind of make it slightly bigger actually. And I decide to try to match the age of these appliances. I remember seeing Mrs. Wheeler cooking a little bit, but if you look in this kitchen, she's got appliances everywhere. It looks like she does a lot of cooking. The most I remember her cooking is breakfast, and that's about it. So I'm like, my goodness, Mrs. Wheeler has it going on with these kitchen appliances. You know she shopped at Sears back in the day. But I'm trying to clutter it up without making it too cluttered, make everything look like, you've got a busybody here in the kitchen, but it's still functional, if that makes sense. It's a pretty big kitchen. It's a pretty good size. And I did find this CC, and it came with the Stranger Things pack that I mentioned earlier. And it's a box of Eggos. And I wanted to put it in here, and I do put it in here at first, but then I decided to put it in or on top of this table that is off to the side of this kitchen, kind of like this less formal little breakfast nook that I've made for them. And we're about to move into the formal dining area, and I feel like we had quite a bit of scenes in this part of the house. The only thing I regret, I did not put pink carpet down, okay? Most of the wood flooring in this house is this parquet wood floor. And then you see a lot of bedrooms with that blue carpet that was very popular back then. This is the only room in the house that you see with pink carpet. And I just felt like it looked funny, like to have so many rooms with all of this different like flooring happening. So just because I couldn't stand it, I kept it away. But now that like I'm looking at the video, I'm like, man, I should have just done it. Now I wish I would have kept it, but I do like the way this dining room turned out. It kind of fit in with what I was envisioning, what was going on in the show. And I made sure to put down a spot for baby Holly, because again, I'm thinking about season 1, because I am rewatching the whole series before the last season comes out. And that's when I fell in love with the house. So I love it. Moving into the living room, this is another room where you get glimpses of it, but you don't really see the whole scope of the room. So I was kind of referencing off of when Elle was left alone and Mike is at school and everyone else is at work, and she just kind of like ventures around the house. She goes up into Nancy's room, and then she kind of hangs out in the living room for a little bit. She watches TV. I decided to put that kind of disheveled looking recliner down, because that's really the only kind of recliner looking chair that we have in The Sims. And that is Mike's dad's lazy boy that he references. He was so proud of that lazy boy. He's like, yeah, this is dad's lazy boy. And I remember lazy boy just being like a big thing growing up. Like, oh, if you have a lazy boy, you have comfort up in your house. But there was a ton of pictures on the mantle. They had like a little fireplace, and on top of this mantle, they had a picture or a set of pictures of all the family. So that's what I'm trying to replicate here. I'm moving with the tool mod, all these little picture frames, and I changed the picture so it doesn't all just say like pictures of this dude. And yeah, I change it up. And even though, yes, that is not the Wheeler family, you kind of get that effect that it's a big family, you know, lots happening up in their family tree. So I am decorating the rest of the house with very like modest looking decorations, especially I feel like in this time period, you either lived in a house with insane looking decorations, like super colorful and bold, like maximalist style, or it was very simple like this, just, you know, a lot of landscape pictures. And I don't know, I really enjoyed just like kind of using all these different things that we have in the buy menu. I felt like for The Sims, I got as close as possible to the Wheeler house. I decided to put down the landline phones as decoration because, guys, that's what we had. That's what we had back then. And I think it's crazy, like when I watch the show and they're on the phone, and I'm like, I kind of miss those days where you didn't have a phone on you at all times. But can you imagine how many problems would have been solved if one of the kids could have just texted the other and been like, hey, the world's coming to an end right now? Yeah, I think about that sometimes. But here I am, putting down the Eggos. I just thought that this was a better spot than in the kitchen, and I didn't really know what else to do with this area because, again, this is like a spot where you really just see them sitting at the table eating. You don't really see much else of the room, so I just kind of made it like a traffic area and connected it to baby Holly's room, and you know, had a spot where you can change your shoes, get your lunchbox ready. I put down some books, and yeah, I add a little space where, you know, they go to the bathroom. I don't really show decorating the bathrooms in this build because I just don't feel like it's a focal point. I leave it very basic because, at least growing up, and I'm a child of the 90s, and a lot of like the same decorations that is in the show kind of spilled over into my childhood. I don't really remember bathrooms just being like very decked out. You know, it was a room, you kept it clean. I do remember my aunt loved to decorate her bathroom with swans. She had a lot of swan decor. But other than that, no, I kind of just keep the bathrooms just like very basic. And now I'm just using a little bit of creativity because you never see baby Holly's room. And she is always so cute with her little pigtails. I imagine her room to be cute as well. So I try to put down like some nostalgic looking toys that we have in the game. I try to kind of make her look a little spoiled. She's the baby of the family, and God bless her. There are so many things that is going on around her, and she has no idea what's happening because she's a baby. And every once in a while, she'll just pop up in her mother's arms, and she just has this look of cluelessness in her face. And I just wonder how she's going to be portrayed, because obviously she's older now in this last season that's coming out. And I rewatched season 4 a couple weeks ago, and she's almost Mike's age in that season. Like when the series first began. And then I'm like, gosh, this has really been going on that long. So yeah, I'm so excited. But for now, she is baby Holly, and this is her room. So right now you can see a little glimpse of this bathroom, and basically like the same bathroom that's on the other side of the house. I'm just repeating the same decorations. I'm not like making it completely different, but I did like the idea of one bathroom being on the other side and a matching one being on the opposite. So right now I'm just kind of putting down the beds for each of the bedrooms. And I'm going to pop some pictures back up in a second to kind of show you guys what I'm trying to accomplish. But I loved Nancy's room. I mostly loved Nancy's room because of how decorated it was, but also how crazy, like not her personality it was. It was kind of like what her parents wanted her to be, this girly girl. She had a lot of children's things lying around still, you know, a lot of stuffed animals and dolls just kind of randomly put here and there. I tried so hard to find CC of a poster of Tom Cruise from that time period. I could not find it, but I made do. I made do with some things that was in the game, but I did find some really cool 1980s movie posters. None of them featured Tom Cruise. That sucked. But I was trying, guys. Like, you see hints of her, but there's not much of it. And I think that's kind of crazy and kind of goes back into her own personality in season 1 when she begins to rebel a little bit, and she's got her first boyfriend. She's got Steve, and she's starting to figure out who she is, and that she is like a really strong female character. She's not just like this little girl from suburbia. She's got a lot of gusto about her. But I do try to like fit in with this picture that's up on the screen. All these cute little stuffed animals, all this pastel pink, and yeah, I just thought that was perfect. And we had so many things in the game that just kind of fit in with this aesthetic as well. So I had a lot of fun doing Nancy's room and kind of just mixing this really girly personality with kind of her rebellious side. Now, before we move on, we are going to do Mike's room. And like I said a little bit earlier, that was such a difficult room because I couldn't hardly find anything for Mike's room where you could see like everything in his room. So I kind of take a break a little bit and I just kind of do a basic parent's room. Now their room kind of sucks. I'm not even gonna lie. They don't have a whole lot of wiggle room, but also I was thinking they don't need it. You don't hardly pay much attention to the parents. So I just kind of give them like the basic essentials. I do give Mrs. Wheeler a vanity because that woman always has her hair done up. She's always got her makeup on. She's always dressed really nice. You'd never see that woman in loungewear. She cares about her appearance quite a bit. So yeah, I kind of add those little details. And now we're in the Mike's room. This was the only picture I found online that gave me some idea of how to decorate. And it's kind of like Nancy's room in a way where it doesn't necessarily match what you would think. It doesn't match his personality that much. Like, you see a little bit of clutter, you see some game boards, okay, but like the pictures on the wall is depicting ships, you know, on the sea. You see a lot of like nature-esque pictures. There's some different things like on his bedstand and on this little table that, you know, kind of suggests a little bit of like a rustic, outdoorsy kind of kid. And yeah, even though he's outside a lot, like usually when I think of an outdoorsy kid, I think of like a boy that's like into hunting and fishing. And he doesn't really seem to be that. He's definitely into everything. This is great. I love the E.T. poster and the Back to the Future poster. I I always think of E.T. when I watch season 1. It just gives me those vibes, especially when they're riding around on their bikes, running away with Elle. And this was just so exciting. I had to add it to Mike's room. Now we are on to my favorite part of this video, and that is the basement. And guys, I spent so long on the basement because I was having so much fun with this. So I have a couple of pictures of the basement that I kind of use for inspiration, and I have a little bit of CC that came with that Stranger Things pack I've been mentioning, and we have this old TV, and I tried to kind of put it in this nook where the couch is going to be, and everything else I use is from the game. So I give them a more disheveled looking couch. We don't have a lot of disheveled looking couches. We have a couple, and I wanted to make it look like, yeah, this belongs in the basement, and the youngest, well, the middle child wants it, so that's why it hasn't been thrown out yet. And now I'm getting out the rest of the stuff from that CC pack. We've got a copy of Dungeons and Dragons. We've got some a dice board. We've got pizza. We've got an icy. We've got a crumpled up Coke can. We have a walkie-talkie. We have a Walkman. There's a compass. There's a flashlight. I just get it all out because I want to clutter this basement with it, like, to where your eyes are constantly going to be catching things. And I even find, even though in season 1 we haven't met Max yet, I wanted to give a little shout out to Max. I put her skateboard off to the side. And right now I'm just getting everything out also from the game that I can clutter this area up with. And I decide to add some elements to just kind of make it look like a functional basement, you know, not just an area where they have fun, but you know, you definitely can tell it's a basement. And with the Journey to Batuu pack, yeah, I had my Star Wars toys that just fit in so well with this build. So yeah, I clutter up the area with that. I used so many items, guys, but I had so much fun doing it. Like, I felt like it looked as real as it could possibly get in The Sims, and it was just so much fun. So now, kind of moving out of this corner of the room and going toward where they play their game, I found a Dungeons and Dragons actual game that your Sims can play. And again, that's linked below. And yeah, like, they can actually play Dungeons and Dragons. And I had to download that and put that on this game table for you. I love it so much. That little hint of realism, and I clutter up this table a little bit. Again, just as to shove it in your face. This is Dungeons and Dragons, y'all. I mean, that game set the tone for the whole show. I mean, we don't even know what those creatures are called, but from Dungeons and Dragons, they call it the Demogorgon. And we don't even know if that is Vecna's name, but again, from the game, they call him Vecna. So it's just like such an iconic game that that's the whole reason why I downloaded CC, was to have something that showed Dungeons and Dragons and kind of link back to all of those elements that are in the show. So there is part of this picture where it is carpeted, and the other part is just like cement flooring. So that's why I kind of section off this area of the house and no longer have like carpet covering the entire spot. I decided to put this table down because they have a table where they make like a little fort, and Elle sleeps under it. So I decided to put that there, as well as a trunk, because they dig in a trunk to find Elle something to wear, and they find something old of Nancy's. So all of these things are just like little shout outs to different parts of the show. But guys, we are nearing the end of this video, and stay tuned for a tour. Guys, this was so much fun, and let me know your thoughts down below. But until next time, have a good one.